IGN had the IGN first for Crimson Desert, and they put up an exclusive preview after going hands-on. I really can't wait for this open world game, and I also am like, I'm kind of over all the boss gameplay. I want to see more open world stuff, so I hope this video has that. But I will overall, of course, also share my input after having played now 3 hours in total of the game already, multiple demos, etc. So let's see what IGN has to say, and then I will, of course, pause the video with inserts from my experience.
It has been almost 6 years since Crimson Desert was first revealed to the world. Across that period, developer Pearl Abyss has shown off a huge array of ideas, mechanics, and boss battles. It's frequently been cited as something of an everything game. An open world adventure with sky islands, mechanical dragons, wrestling moves, interdimensional gateways, interacting elemental effects, and even a Spider-Man web swing.
Yeah, that Spider-Man web swing is really awesome. I think I was like using that as well, and you can like probably, I don't think, like there is one boss, like the turtle, where you actually need it to complete that boss fight, but I think you're mostly fine not using it. But if you do, you can launch yourself and do like not even like reach spots you otherwise could not, but also used in combat. It's kind of wild.
But the more that's been revealed, the more there's been the sense that Crimson Desert may be a lot of pieces in need of a whole. Finding that complete picture was my main objective when I visited Pearl Abyss's studio in Seoul for this month's IGN First. And while I can't say I found it yet, multiple hours of hands-on playtime has revealed a game that's maybe not as strange as you'd expect. In fact, Crimson Desert feels pretty straightforward.
Okay, that's interesting to see. I'm still curious about those sky islands, though, what that will be about. But that still seems really out of place. But yeah, this IGN footage was really focused on, there are way more mounts than just your horse and the dragon we knew about, of course, as well. Like this mech that seems to, it's like you can find it and it will have a certain use, so you can't always use it, but when you do, you will be super OP. I think it will be really fun. The mechanical dragon fight looks awesome too.
Pearl Abyss has crafted a reasonably traditional open world.
It looks really empty right now if you look at it like this. But I've trained to know that like Yotei looked very empty too, and then when playing that you would like encounter something every minute. So I'm not really scared of this
adventure, made up of multiple regions peppered with towns, outposts, and castles. There's the usual collection of main and optional quests, plus classic distractions like fishing. You'd be forgiven for not realizing this though. Pearl Abyss has put almost all of its promotional efforts into showcasing boss fights.
I think... Now, let's hear what he has to say.
Not only that, but Crimson Desert's blend of traditional medieval fantasy with sci-fi and steampunk elements does make it seem like it's being pulled in several directions at once.
Yeah, I agree. Like, the boss fight focus, I think that those parts are just really finished right now for the game, because those are pretty straightforward. You have a boss with moves and you can counter it, etc. It's, of course, also a really nice way to highlight the combat in this game, because if you do the large-scale battles, it can get overwhelming. There's a lot going on. It's way more chaotic. So I do get why they've been focusing on these bosses, but it's weird. Normally an open-world game does not do that. So I do think if the next time, like after this IGN First, we probably go a few months or a few weeks with nothing, and then Game Awards is another like boss fight compilation, I do think we should have like some... That's a red flag. We should be alarmed by that. But I do hope they know that we want to see, okay, I pick up the controller, I'm like past the tutorial, I'm in the open world. What does it look like? What does going to a city, like we know there's a bounty board with stuff, and we know you can fit, like we know there are these activities. How does it work? What does a traditional side quest in this game look like? What are the interactions? Like what are the story elements in this game?
In order to destroy such a weapon,
and there's this over-the-top stuff. What the heck?
to acquire
That's a pretty cool armor, by the way.
Golden Star's power core.
Golden Star.
I do think the dialogue and an overall presentation of the story could be one of the weaker elements, and that's why they maybe have not shown it that much. But I don't think it matters that much. I'm like comparing this more to like a Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. Although they of course had their stories, but like I was like fine with just like going around exploring the world and then that was fun enough for me, and I think Crimson Desert will be like that too. Although I hope I'm wrong. I hope the story is awesome too.
You're on the ground and seeing how all these elements interact, though, it doesn't feel quite so alien. The continent of Pywell is perhaps less like a typical Tolkien-esque fantasy world, and more.
This is like crazy. The scale of this already makes me want to. I'm in. I want to fly around on this dragon in this huge world. Like, I'm in.
Or akin to Dungeons and Dragons, a setting that, in recent years, was host to a Mad Max-like vehicular chase through hell. Polar Abyss's design team explained that they wanted Pywell to reflect the variety of our reality, in which some countries feel much more futuristic than others, and note that some of Pywell's leaders may be more resistant to the advancement of technology than others, a conflict that'll be explored through various faction quests. All this means that the variety doesn't feel artificial or there simply for the sake of being wild, even when you're at the controls of a flying battle robot, which was, of course, designed by dwarven engineers. The inclusion of these mechanized and steampunk elements grant Pearl Abyss the creative license to build quests that are a significant departure from anything we'd see in something like Skyrim.
And I like that. I like that this is a new IP and that we can be surprised because anything is possible. Yeah, it has futuristic elements as well, so that does mean that they can toy with the expectations of an outcome of a quest or of the enemies or the machinery that we can find in the game. Like that's what I know people love Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and I'm really happy that it's there for people. But yeah, that's of course really a medieval game, so you kind of know like they have to stay inside that box, and with Crimson Desert they can go really crazy. So I prefer that overall. That's why I like, for example, The Witcher 3 as well. That you were like constantly, is this going to be a monster or is it someone pretending to be a monster? It could be both.
A major part of my hands-on time involved completing a quest for Marnie, a scientific genius who cloned his own consciousness to create an AI-like entity called Hall. Naturally, the results of such an experiment have gone very wrong, and Marnie's evil digital magic twin has taken command of a flying fortress that's terrorizing Pywell's skies. Defeating Hall requires the use of a power core, which Marnie reveals is hidden inside a weapon called Golden Star. And by weapon, he means a giant mechanical dragon. While they presumably have ballistic missiles in Pywell, what with the advanced engineering and all, of course the fantasy version of a nuke is flying Mechagodzilla. All that stands between.
Like these types of cutscenes, it takes me back to like a Final Fantasy 16 where, and I've not really felt that since then, where, I mean, Spider-Man 2 had a lot of that too, where you're constantly like, whoa, what the heck is happening? We're seeing so much like set piece moments on the screen, and I really hope that Crimson Desert, and I think for a third-party game that's pretty wild, we'll have that too. And like Final Fantasy 16, if you've not played that game, I think you should. It's the boss fights are crazy, and then they always do one step. Like you're constantly like, how are they gonna make this? How are they gonna top this? And then the music kicks in, and you're fighting with these huge creatures, insane. And I'm kind of getting that from this as well, and that is awesome. I think we want that sort of epic feeling, right?
Me and this winged menace is a fortress filled with angry battle robots. It appears that fortress assaults will be a significant recurring objective in Crimson Desert, considering that my hands-on time involved no fewer than 3 of them.
That's pretty crazy.
See why Pearl Abyss was keen to show them off, as they are a showcase for some of the project's strongest achievements. There's a great sense of atmosphere, with a legion of men from either side battling the living hell out of each other, and you're caught in the middle of it all.
I played one of these two at Gamescom, and for me, it was like cool for the overall grand scheme of it all. Like it felt like a big thing, but it was also, you do kind of lose control when you're fighting a lot of these enemies and they're coming at you from all angles. And I do like that that's why they have the boss fights where your tactics are more important, but it was really brain dead. These like large scale battles were just like, it was really hard to keep track of anything that was going on, and was just spamming my abilities. And maybe if I get the time to like properly like learn the game and then get to these points, I'll be better suited. But I wasn't like really like, they were cool in terms of like graphics and in terms of like things happening on the screen, but in terms of gameplay they were not really that engaging, I felt like. So hopefully that's better for some of the other large-scale battles. But hearing that there are a lot of them, like I think it's cool if the game builds towards that, and you first do like some smaller missions and then end on like a large-scale battle. But having a lot of them in like a quick succession, I don't know, maybe that was just for this demo, that they just jumped around to all these large-scale battles, but...
Fun mechanical wrinkles add texture. During one attack, I was able to fire signaling arrows that were quickly followed by a bombardment of artillery.
Yeah, that was with the Gamescom demo as well. That's pretty cool, but yeah.
Decimating enemy soldiers and reducing buildings to splinters. In another, I was able to circumnavigate the brutal melee entirely, sneaking into the castle through a crumbling wall and using the prison as a shortcut to the boss. And in my fight through the robot fortress, a backpack-mounted EMP device allowed me to fry the circuits of both the lumbering ground threats and airborne bug bots in one giant blast. There's always something new to try, something to experiment with. But as much as these fortress assaults are a demonstration of Crimson Desert's highs, they also simultaneously reveal what could turn out to be some of its biggest blemishes.
Yes.
Battling masses of enemies is surprisingly tedious, feeling messy and repetitive rather than an engaging chain of frontline fights. An
What I was saying,
awkward
yeah.
lock-on feature pushed me away from one-on-one duels into a more freeform playstyle, but that came with the baggage of imprecise strikes and occasionally kicking the air instead of faces. Absolutely none of these issues hamper the boss battles, which was my only...
Yeah, again, that's why I think they focus on these boss battles, because that is where you really feel like you're in full control. So I really hope in the full game, when we get to these large-scale battles, you got your combos down, so it will not feel as chaotic. You will feel more like will feel more in control. So you can very quickly get through these like smaller soldiers to get to these boss fights. But yeah, in the demos we played, that was not really the case. But I hope that's possible.
Experience of Crimson Desert prior to this demonstration, and I was quite surprised at how different combat can feel in alternative scenarios, even when using the same moveset. It's in these smaller, less refined details where Crimson Desert threatens to lose itself. There are occasions where you need to pick up and manipulate objects, such as planting a banner to inspire your allies. Doing so requires standing still, turning to face the object, activating a focus mode, rapidly tapping a button to lift your target, and then finally using your telekinetic powers to manually move it. All of this is a slightly baffling annoyance when erecting flags, but it turns into a genuine frustration in the middle of a boss battle, when you're desperately trying to swing a fallen masonry column during the precious few seconds when the boss is stunned.
Yeah, I had to do this too. I got better at it. Like, the first time you're like, what the heck is this, like, foreign controller combination? But the boss is actually down for quite some time, so you do have the time. And even if the boss, like, gets back up, you can still, if you have the time, swing it and hit it. So it just does not take as much damage. But, yeah, this game is trying so many things that... you've heard it many times before. The control scheme is, yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see if they find the right balance for it. But during the preview sessions, again, it's just how much is us coming in without knowing anything about the game and being like, yo, you have a full kit and go wild, that you're like overwhelmed, versus probably throughout the game you will understand these features and will not run into these issues. It's very hard to know, yeah, what it will end up being with the final game. But yeah, maybe increasing the speed of this would have already been nice. Like, I get that they have to show the weight of it all, but we're using magic here. Just whoop would be nice.
Thankfully, no such awkward ultra hand juggling is required to extract the power core from Golden Star. As we explored earlier this month in our making of feature, this is a boss fight with a unique mechanic that must be discovered in the quite literal heat of battle. The dragon's flaming breath activates an array of pylons dotted around the arena, which then dispense EMP bombs that you can fire from an arm-mounted cannon. The system creates a repeating phase loop. Golden Star circles above, belching the flames that produce the EMP bombs that will eventually bring him crashing to the ground, where you can unleash a barrage of strikes until he reboots and begins the cycle anew. Polarbis are keen to point out that you don't have to do this. You could, for instance, use lightning-reefed arrows to apply a stun, or simply chip away at his health bar with ranged attacks. But I feel that the real enjoyment in all of Crimson Desert's boss fights have been finding the unique mechanic built into the arena or even the enemy itself. Bosses are not the only thing in need of conquering. Suspended high above Pywall are a scattering of Abyss Islands, accessed through portals that are unlocked with mysterious Abyss artifacts. These islands appear to come in multiple guises. Last year we saw that one of them is home to an alchemist called Alastin and his Library of Providence, and my hands-on session included one that was more akin to Zelda's puzzle shrines. Its checkerboard floor was essentially a room-sized circuit board in need of a total rewiring, and finding the correct path through the grid of rotating flagstones unlocks the island's treasure trove. This is, of course, the sort of puzzle you've solved in everything from Watch Dogs to Bioshock, but I enjoyed how your equipment is integral to completing it. Your lantern illuminates the correct pathway, and your grapple hook is used to spin each tile. So while this challenge is not particularly taxing, I hope its solid foundations are the basis for more interesting puzzles that await among the clouds. When you've uncovered an Abyss Island's secrets, you can leap off the side and float down to Earth.
That's pretty awesome. We will see if these, like, it seems pretty optional right now. From maybe you will encounter some of them during the main story. I'm curious if most of these become optional. But yeah, cool that we have some puzzles, of course, in the game, even though it's not like the most original type of puzzle. And yeah, jumping then off is of course
Plenty more
awesome.
Traditional open world fare awaits. There are towns to visit in which you'll find shopkeepers to trade with and bounties to take on. Out in the wilderness, there are camps to clear out and roaming barbarians to slaughter.
Yeah, the bear mount.
And then there's the factions. From what I glimpse in the menus, there are dozens and dozens of them, although some will be more important than others, I'm told. A few have their own quest lines, such as House Wells, a family of nobles led by a duke who's lost his castle to rebel forces, a situation that's the catalyst for one of those aforementioned fortress assaults. Pearl Abyss was quick to clarify that these groups are not like Fallout's factions, and allegiances with them won't change the course of the story or impact Crimson Desert's ending, which is set in stone. And so I'm left wondering, what are the faction quests in aid of? When asked, Pearl Abyss's design team explained that they were there to ensure that the factions felt like significant actors in the plot, and that they offered more content for players to complete. That considered, I am a little apprehensive that at least some of Crimson Desert's offerings will be stuff to do rather than meaningful interlinked opportunities.
I don't mind that much, to be honest. I think it's cool that we get to learn more about these factions by doing the side content. I don't need them to be super intertwined with like the overall story and all that sort of stuff. So I'm to be fair, I'm kind of fine with it. I think it's kind of hard to know, and the game only having one ending, that's fine with me too. Again, it seems like there are enough choices in how you want to approach the open world, what order you want to tackle the bosses, what mysteries you will find. I'm fine with that just being that instead of having all the dialogue options and stuff as well.
That brings us back to my very first question. What is Crimson Desert as a whole? I know it's a vast open world with
this looks insane.
Deep fighting game inspired combat that works better
like he has a
against
gun.
bosses
Sure,
than it
why
does
not?
against fodder. It's got spectacle laid
Awesome, you can send back the projectiles.
against fodder. It's got spectacle laden quests that take you from
Yeah, I think the boss fights will really be the highlight of this game. But it has to be more than that, of course.
in the mud
Because then it would have been better if it was just like a linear game with these boss fights, kind of like a Black Myth Wukong, but it's obviously not that.
castle assaults all the way up to aerial dogfights. And it's littered with good time distractions, from fishing and bounties to taming bears and buckling up in a battle mech. But I'm still waiting to discover the glue between all this that elevates an open world to new heights. Shadow of Mordor has the Nemesis system, which chains its enemies together into a foe-conquering big picture. Red Dead Redemption 2's systems are united by a pursuit of realism and authenticity that makes its campaign feel like a life lived rather than a game played. And this year's Ghost of Yotai links every activity on its map to a new unlock on your skill tree, ensuring even little diversions are a growth opportunity.
Okay, I think it's interesting that I mean, I can already name a couple things that Crimson Desert will likely bring as an open world game versus the other things that are mentioned, like having the Sky Islands and the insane scale and the mounts, all the mounts you can, like, I would argue that you could already say Crimson Desert adds a lot of mounts so you can traverse the world in many different ways. That's already a pretty unique element for this game. So I thought that section was kind of weird.
That's the stuff that's so far been missing from Crimson Desert's demonstrations, and the thing I hope will eventually be revealed when I get to play multiple.
I don't agree with that. There are already many things where I'm like, whoa, like the movements, the grapple hook. There are already many things that this game does that we do not see in other open world games. I'm sorry.
Consecutive hours, rather than a collection of isolated quests and bosses. With
An arena. Oh.
about it,
Those are always my favorites.
I still think
elements. I hope it's like a repeatable thing and not just one boss
Crimson
fight.
Desert stands a solid chance at being an overall good time, but with it, it could become something much more special.
Yeah, that's, I think, the bigger question. I think this game is going to be solid, for sure. It's going to be very cool to experience. It's something new. It's huge. It's going to be, like, I'm always looking forward to these types of games where I'm going to be surprised, because we have not seen this yet. Again, the world looks amazing. It seems that it will have a lot of secrets and a lot of new elements. That's, I think, where Ghost of Yotei, a lot of the unlocks were already things you did in Tsushima. So it kind of lacked, for me, that newness. And Crimson Desert is, you're sure it has elements of other games, but it is in a very interesting package. The question is if they can elevate that. If it's just that, wow, it's new, it's gonna be interesting, or if it's gonna be way more, like it's gonna be special, it's gonna be actually of really, really high quality. I think that's where we're still. Right now it seems like they're putting a lot of stuff in the game. Will it work out? How will it come together? I think that's the biggest question we still have. But it's gonna be very interesting. It's gonna be a fun time, I think, either way.
For more from Crimson Desert, check out...
So yeah, I would not be surprised if we will see a basically if they will invite other people to play the thing that IGN got to play. That's usually how this works. IGN gets the IGN first, and then later on they have an event where they invite more people, and we then probably get to play this demo too, because it takes a lot of effort to make a pre-launch demo. They've been making a lot of them though, so it might be different for Pearl Abyss, but I would not be surprised if we also, like other creators, and I hope myself included and other press, gets to play the same demo that IGN did, maybe with a more polished version or anything. When we do, I will of course let you know. But yeah, I'm keeping a really good eye on this game, basically. I will keep you posted. Subscribe for this, of course, on the main channel. I will talk about it too. And I will speak to you soon. Goodbye.